today we're going to go over, this is my Leviathan, and it's a MOC. It's one of the first locomotive, it's actually one of the first train MOCs that I built. People are going to look at this and they're going to say, hey, that looks an awful lot like the Toy Story set, and you would be correct. It does look an awful lot like the Toy Story set. I did use that as my starting point. That was my mechanical base. That's where I kind of said, okay, let's take that and build out the the Leviathan. So you're going to see things that are very representative of that set. That train had a lot of problems. It did not want to negotiate track well as it was. It was considered a push train. It did not come with track, so Lego did not design it to run around a track. It just happened to have flanged wheels. So a lot of work. Again, since it was my first MOC, it was my first train set that I designed. It took me a while to kind of figure out what it's going to take to build the train and to get it to run around the track consistently and be a good running train, because that's what I want, is a good running train. So this is what I came up with. It's quite a bit different than the Toy Story set, but it is representative of it. So what I want to do is, it's running under power functions, and I want to change that over to powered up. I'm slowly converting everything I have to the powered up. The powered up stuff that I'm using, came with a second passenger set that I bought, and my plan was to put the motor in that set and run it backwards, and I did a video on how to link those with the controller so that you can control that motor, both motors, with one controller on one channel. So I'll put a link to that, or a card up for that. Pretty easy, pretty simple. It does take some clever routing to get that motor, to get the cable routed up through there, because they're both going to be going the same direction. So check out that video, we'll talk about that. Let's get this one switched over. So the first thing we're going to do is pull these apart, and we're going to pull this out. This is set this aside because we really don't have to do anything to this, but take this little brick off here, and we're going to pull out, this is the IR receiver. So this is what the controller picked up, the signal from the controller, the infrared signal. So we're not going to need it anymore, so we'll set it to the side. And then we're going to pull this motor off. This is the power function motor. It actually comes off fairly easy. And get the routed out. It's actually sitting on this pin on top of the motor, and I have these extra modified plates on the side, and they support against the bottom of the tender here. So let's get the couplers off, and checking my time, got 2 couplers there, and then we got the little side rails. Got 2 of those. Get those off, and then we need the wheels. And yes, these are the wheels from the Toy Story set. But the Leviathan actually had some pretty fancy looking wheels. It was a pretty fancy looking engine. I'll see if I can put a picture of it. Let's put a picture right here. Alright, so now we're going to take the powered up, which has the new plug. Otherwise it's identical. We're going to go ahead and get the wheels on it. So what this is, just Technic axle with the flanged wheel. This has actually got the rubber bands around it for traction, and yes, they are dirty. This train has had a lot of time. It's been around the track several times at several shows. Okay, we'll get those on, and we're going to put our side rails back on. That noise is probably very annoying across the in the video. This is only the second time I've used this turntable, maybe the 3rd time. This has a lot of weight to it. Hear that rattle? This brick here is a weighted brick. It's got a piece of metal in it, probably lead, There's another metal that's really heavy, that's like lead but not as toxic. It could also just be a piece of steel, although it feels a lot heavier. So we're going to route this cable up through the hole that I've made, and then we're going to put the pin in the plate, which has a Technic hole in it. Kind of give it a little squish, and we're all set. So the next thing, this piece went across here, and it kind of managed the cable going to the locomotive back to the tender. So you had with the power functions, you had the cable coming from the motor, went to the IR receiver, which I had hidden in the engine, and then back to the battery box. So we're going to just have the battery box, or what they call the hub now. We'll go ahead and plug that into A, upside down, and we're going to just route the cable down in front and put this over the top. It's a little bundle of dynamite there, and it's lit, so better hurry. Okay, so that should get it. We can sync that with the controller, and we'll be off to the races. So let's take a quick look at the rest of this train. We've seen the Leviathan. Or at least my representation of the Leviathan. I also have a freight car. It's just a little gondola. We've got some rifles and shotguns and some treasure chests and some wine bottles and dynamite, everything a growing prospector needs in the Wild West. I also have a combine car. So it's part baggage car, part passenger car. These sets are based off the 6x24 train base, and it's just a standard 4-wheel bogie. This, I don't know, this is used in a couple of the sets that Lego puts out. Pretty simple little build. I got some clear pieces up in the top part of the roof just for skylights. There was no lighting, no electrical lighting back then. And we have two identical passenger cars. Again, this is kind of like a Denver and Rio Grande type passenger car, Old West car. It's got these modified grill plates that running up and down to kind of represent the wood that they would have had in that time frame. The roof does come off. There's the door. I just use these simple system doors. They had them in yellow, and it worked good for my height that I was working on. We got a little potbelly stove and some passengers. Not a lot of room. This is a 6 wide, not an 8 wide like you'd see out of like Penlug or Brick Model Railroaders. Them guys, they do some excellent work, and their trains are very realistic. They do a great job. I'm not doing that caliber of work. Maybe one of these days. I like the 6 wide. I know them guys do not. The 8 wide does afford you more realistic gauge and scaling, but the 6 wide also is more in line with what Lego builds. So this with the newest passenger train that just came out, it's also 6 wide. So with the scale of the height and the width, I just kind of stick with it because I'm going to run the newest trains come out, and until Lego bumps up to a newer size or to a wider scale, which I really doubt they will. I've been proven wrong about stuff like that, but until that time, I'm going to stay with the 6 wide. So that's a quick view. Let's go running around the train. Okay, so there was some footage of the my general running around the layout. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Comment contest. I'm getting ready to start my studio tour. Anybody remember what year all this stuff came out in? First correct answer, and I'll pin you to the top.